You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hello, everyone. Michael Renfro here. I'm the host of 15 Minutes, Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law firm. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, where we deliver tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. In order to have a successful marketing campaign and make sure that you're getting the optimum ROI, your firm needs to have the better website and the best content. At Gladiator Law Marketing, we use artificial intelligence combined with machine learning, as well as over a century now of experience specific to law to outperform that competition. To learn more, please go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, and that's gladiatorlawmarketing.com. You can schedule a free marketing consultation there. So let's get right into it. Today's guest is Molly Rosenblum. And Molly, tell us, let's just get right into it. Where are you and what practice area do you focus on most?
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
As Michael introduced, I'm Molly Rosenblum. I am in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am a divorce lawyer in Las Vegas. Our firm practices primarily in divorce law, family law, and criminal defense. We do some other areas as more tangential to our practice, but our main focus is family law.
And I would imagine, like many of the main focuses, obviously, then divorce, with probably a lot of child custody and child support followed by that. I would guess.
Correct. Yes, we do focus on child custody. We do also child support. We are a little bit unique in the family law practice here in Las Vegas because we do have some other areas that most firms don't focus on. Our practice also does dependency law, which is representing parents who've had their children removed by the state. So we do that as well.
And just a quick question out of the blue. Do you folks, because I imagine you probably have one or two strong litigators if it ends up going to trial where you've had to, and those, I mean, I know those get nasty, but I imagine you have some good experience in litigation as well. Yes,
we are a trial law practice. Our firm generally has, I would say, maybe 3 to 5 trials a week scheduled between our family law and our criminal law practice. So
right. Well, the thing that led me to that is when I heard criminal defense, that's usually because you're good at fighting. So you might as well fight for, the innocent criminals as well as the ones that are trying to split up a relationship and not ruin their lives, right?
Sometimes those things go hand in hand.
Right. Yeah.
You do get the occasional family law mixed in with
the criminal. Yes. Unfortunately, I'm all too aware of that. I will just make a quick one. But when my first ex and I split, let's just say she made a visit and ended up being escorted away by police, which meant there was now the inclusion of an arrest within the breakup, and you already know where all that can go. So what I will say is it's always good to have, in my personal opinion, in fact, my attorney was not only a female, but she also practiced criminal defense as well. And I think that really gives you an advantage if you have any foresight that your divorce is going to get ugly. If you think it's going to be easy, then, go do the $500 guys that are, do that. If you both have sat down and it's already pretty much planned out, get the $500. But if you have what you think is going to even have a chance at ugliness, go and pay a $5,000 retainer and know that you're probably going to spend more and be very happy that you did ultimately versus what you will pay otherwise.
True. Yes. We often tell our clients, I think probably more than other firms, we do our best to encourage people, especially going through a divorce or custody matter, to try to settle their
as best as possible
themselves, right? And rather than spending their children's college education on lawyers. But if they truly cannot, then we are happy to step in and help them out.
And I love that attitude right out of the gate, because you're probably like almost every. Obviously, I've been through the ringer and I ended up having 3 attorneys with that one split up, by the way. And one of the things that every single attorney, and I think it's just common practice amongst family attorneys, is, hey, as much as you can work it out with her, it's going to be better, but understand that I am here for you if you can't. And that's pretty much the same, at least from what I have seen, or what I feel like is a good family attorney, because nobody wants to go down that road, and if they don't have to, because it's always ugly. There's nothing you do. And that leads me to my first question. How did you get started in the family arena? Because a lot of times folks are in a practice area that was not necessarily where they planned on ending up when they got started. So I'm curious if that's the same for you.
Yeah, so I kind of tell the same story when people ask me that. First day of law school, and I went to law school here in Vegas at Boyd, and I don't know if they do it anymore because the law school is relatively new, but they ask you, what do you think you want to do when
what
you
practice,
law
right?
Degree? And I think my answer was something like, oh, I'm going to be a corporate securities lawyer. I'm going to work for the casinos, and I don't want to.
You had a whole vision.
I did. I was pretty set. And interestingly enough, when I graduated, I got a job working for an individual in his firm who did high-end personal injury law.
Right.
And I did that for a few years and joined another firm where I did really, really high-end medical malpractice cases, very complex, very intellectually difficult, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And I think the final straw for me came with a insurance company who was just simply refusing to pay.
They were just a nasty company.
Yeah, and it was just very difficult at the time in Las Vegas. There was an outbreak of hepatitis C caused by physician negligence.
When was this, if you don't mind me asking? What year?
About 2005, 6-ish.
Okay, so this has been a while then.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years now.
Yeah, almost 20 years. So yeah, and it just became really difficult to settle cases and to resolve cases. And
it was kind of like you guys had an early version of what the pandemic was going to be like there in your capsule, if you will.
Yeah, and I had a little boy who had been really damaged by a physician's negligence, and I just became so frustrated with the system that I thought I have to do something else. And a friend of mine.
There are such a thing as morals, even for attorneys, right?
there are. And yeah. And so I was fortunate that a friend of mine was starting sort of a different, a multifaceted practice, and he had an opportunity for a family law attorney. And I thought, well, this is really different. And I don't really know a whole lot about family law, but sure, I'll come on over and we'll make a go of it. And we did. And I was sort of hooked. I mean, I love the idea that I'm helping individuals, real people, helping them through, really life-changing situations.
Well, it's one of the top 5. I mean, anybody, I'm sure that's part of your spiel, not to sound rude or anything else like that. But, funny enough, divorce is higher on than marriage. So, and it's true in every way. It's almost always inevitably cheaper to get married than it is to get that divorce.
100%.
And it's a lot less stressful too. There's, I think it's just simply put, one is a joyous stress. So even though it's stressful, it's a joyous time. So the stress is a little easier to handle, right? But divorce is the exact opposite. And it's one of those, what is it? Marriage, job, divorce, moving. And what is the 5th one? There's one more I'm leaving out. Death. Yeah, I believe it's death. Yeah. And birth might be, I think birth and death are like tied because they, similar to really divorce and marriage, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, doing what we do, people's lives are different forever, right? Whether it's getting alimony, paying alimony, losing your house,
your money, your life.
Your house. Yeah, it's a major.
Have you heard that acronym yet that Google developed for you folks? I talked to a lot of lawyers about it, but have you heard that YMYL?
No.
Yeah, so Google, they do updates, right? And when they did what was called the Medic update, and I believe this was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, they added a new acronym that basically told the world what they thought of attorneys, doctors, accountants, anybody who holds a license, and you'll get this on the white collar side that affects your money, your life.
Yes.
Attorneys were one of the few, if not the only one, they actually named by industry. So as an example, so that obviously gives you an idea of where Google sees attorneys and understands the impact of having an attorney for anything. I mean, it really, everybody tries to argue that. I'm like, what do you use an attorney for? You use them just like Seinfeld. It's funny enough, but he really said it. Attorneys know the rules. And then you pick the attorney that knows the rules to that particular thing, because otherwise you're going in blind.
Right.
Right. That is a huge effect on your money and your life. It doesn't matter if it's business, divorce, personal injury. It really doesn't matter. You're deciding and going with someone who's going to represent you and can change and will, in fact, the outcome is going to change your life one way or another.
Yep.
So
yep. Exactly right. Exactly right.
I think it's funny too that you went in basically with a leap of faith, not really having any real experience in it. You're like, yeah, I just want to try this, and that's awesome that it worked out the way it did.
And so it's been the better part of what, a decade and a half, give or take.
Right? Yeah. It doesn't look like you're leaving it anytime soon.
Not ever.
What were those early days like, and the new practice where you were practicing family for the first time?
Yeah, it was a lot of learning curve, a lot of getting to know people more so than I think in personal injury to a certain extent. There's sort of an arm's length practice. Sort of, people come in and they
don't really tell you much about their life. Just what this incident, right? This is the accident. Don't ask me anything else.
Right. And you may learn a little bit maybe about like their work or how the injury has impacted them, but you don't really get involved in really every aspect, right? So a lot of the learning curve for me was just trying to sort through what's really important to get this person beyond this relationship and beyond the and how we can do that efficiently and cost effectively, because it is very different than personal injury where it's sort of a contingency and you don't get paid till the end.
Exactly.
When a client wants to call and talk to you,
that's money.
And it's not moving their case forward, right? It is. It's money out of their pocket. And so, kind of figuring out how to talk to clients was a big learning curve for me. The substantive law was a little easier, I think, just as a lawyer, you're trained to read the law and kind of know things. So yeah, kind of out of the gate, those were sort of some of the biggest hurdles at the outset, and just kind of finding my place in that practice area. So, yeah.
So I would definitely, from listening to you, I would say one of the biggest things you learned was, if you didn't already know, you learned very quickly how to be a people person, but at the same time with your arm's distance. So, because, I tell people this a lot, but particularly criminal defense and family, even more so than criminal defense, but they're more like the therapists of the law industry. And they really, when they have a client, again, this is all from experience on both of those types of attorneys. I've got my checkered past and everybody knows it. But I mean, the reality is you pretty much have to pour your soul to somebody who's either A, defending you of a crime, or B, trying to get you out of a relationship in the, path of least resistance, if you will. Right. Then the more as my representation, then the better opportunity you as the attorney have at actually making sure I get through this. And yeah, it's funny because you folks truly take a lot. You have that same, you have to find a, what's the word I'm looking for? A boundary. There's a boundary that has to be in place where you can hear all that, take all that, and not let it destroy you emotionally, so that you can, wouldn't you agree on that?
In the,
more so than any other practice areas.
Yeah, I think, again, it's sort of part of my job is counseling, right? And helping people.
Yes, literally, you are a counselor.
Right. But then also trying to sort of really get them to brass tacks. How does this help you advance what you're trying to do in the end of this relationship or co-parent with this person? So a lot of it is figuring that out and helping people kind of get there from a legal standpoint.
No, that makes sense. So in the last 16, I think I'm getting that right now, 16 years, what would you say is the biggest milestone that you're most proud of?
I think I have had, I think as much as I represent parents, probably my favorite case is representing kids.
Yeah, I knew it. I could hear it.
I took a pro bono case through our pro bono project here locally, and I represented 2 children whose mom, unfortunately, was not in a good way and had some pretty severe drug issues and was unable to raise them. Unfortunately, these 2 children sort of languished in our system and through the dependency system. And I was able to help them find permanency, a new home, foster parents who loved them and adored them and raised them. I have heard that they are now.
I was about to ask, so thank you. Just let's hear the update. Give it to me.
They are now adults, and one is in the military and one is in school here locally in college. And just, I think that for me, knowing that you truly changed the course of someone's life well for the better. Yeah. And I do think they still have contact with their mom as their biological mother.
I think if they can, I mean, if you can, even want, especially once you become adult, it's almost a necessity if it is possible to repair that, because there's pain there. And if you don't deal with it, it eats you away anyway, which, tells me that they, their new parents not only raised them well, but taught them and gave them a lot of great tools to deal with the anguish of their previous lives before getting there.
Yeah. So it was really,
awesome.
I mean, that for me, I know it's probably, it was a pro bono case. We didn't get paid for it. It wasn't like I got a
That's awesome
judgment, but that is my favorite. I think my best achievement as an attorney. So.
Well, it speaks volumes of who you are as a person. Let me just say that.
Oh,
and the fact that you left the personal injury, the fact of where you started out and why you left also, in my opinion, speaks volumes as well. So thank you. You're welcome. Excuse me. We kind of touched on it, but what do you think has given you the most traction over the last 16 years?
Most traction. As far as the practice goes?
Yeah, as far as let's just say, because I imagine it's not all the same practice over those 16 years. So let's just say in concerns to your specific career.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
or is it still, by the way, is this still the same practice that you started 16 years ago, or is this?
Not even close.
Okay, that's what I thought. So.
Right. So I have grown from a sole practitioner, kind of working with my husband and my mother-in-law. I employ 4 other attorneys. So we are a 5-person law practice.
Nice.
I have 5 paralegals, a legal assistant, a full-time biller, a full-time receptionist, and 2 office people, and a human resource partner. So we are a bigger practice in Las Vegas. Definitely not the same practice that I had when I started.
Right.
We, of course, have expanded into other areas of law.
Right.
I think probably for me, what got me the most traction is just, waking up every day and thinking, what can I do? How can I get my client?
How can I change this, make it for the better? And in a good way, how can I inflict good, positive, forward-moving change?
Yeah. And also being sort of a voice of reason, right? So a lot of times we get clients who come in and they want the sun, the moon, and the stars, and we kind of have to bring them back down to earth and
expectations, setting expectations is so important in our, and I say our because yes, I represent attorneys, but it's relationship many times is very similar. We're now representing you folks, right? And setting expectations at the beginning of that relationship is so key, because otherwise you can potentially have a very unhappy client and bad relationship with them if not done.
Yes, very much. And so one of the things that I have instilled in in the associates that work for me is, we have our core values as a firm, but one of them is straightforward responses. So
right, don't beat around the bush.
Don't beat around the bush. Tell the client like it is. I tell people often, we're not your friends on social media rah-rahing you. Our job is to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear.
Right.
So a lot of times those conversations can be difficult. And so, definitely being known as someone in the community who isn't just taking retainers in and charging people to have really what I would deem a frivolous position. We really try to get folks to be reasonable and understand where they are.
And what they're truly facing.
Yeah, you're always going to have the cases you've got to fight, and usually that's because the other side is being unreasonable. So and we're prepared for that too, but a lot of times it is, and we do have that reputation of being very reasonable, very realistic, very goal oriented with our clients.
I like the not beating around the bush. One of my biggest pet peeves is someone that literally could have just asked me the freaking question that they asked after like 5 segues. I'm like, there was no need for that, dude. First of all, you don't need to make sure I'm going to be okay with it. Just ask. I'm either going to be okay or I'm not. But if you do all this setup, I'm actually more prone to probably not being okay with it at that point because I'm just tired of listening. You talk to me.
Yep. I talk about a lot, like fewer words. I need fewer.
Right.
Just tell me what you need and let's get on with it.
Less is more.
Yes.
There's a reason that adage has become, especially in our day and age of fast moving and fast paced, you learn to say a lot more in fewer words and you get further that way. So
yes, I would agree.
So I know you named a challenge. Would you say that was your biggest challenge, or if not, what was the biggest challenge that you overcame that gave you the most traction, challenge wise here, professionally or personally? It's whichever you would like to discuss.
So there are a couple things. I mean, I can point to a couple things. When I first started practice in Las Vegas, it was sort of a gloomy time. When I
right.
to go out on my own, right? 2008, 2009-ish, give or take. Not a great economy. People were a lot arguing over debt. And as a sole practitioner, it was not a awesome time to start a law practice.
Kind of feels like a similar time right now, by the way, just to throw that out there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of arguing about debt again.
It does. It does. I mean, housing market in Vegas has started to turn a little bit, sort of starting to get that feeling of like, are we headed back to that? And so definitely starting a law practice in that economy
at that time
was not fabulous.
Right.
It had a lot of financial challenges for me and my husband at the time. At the time we were trying.
I imagine emotionally too, because it beats down on you when there's so much negativity, even though you're trying to start something positive.
Yeah, it can be. It was, I think, at the time, sort of that fear of like, are we going to make it? Are we going to, where are we?
Got to push that fear out. Got to push it out.
Yeah. And a lot of mistakes made along the way, starting law practice. So having to overcome that too is always, I mean, I know we're talking about, mistakes being made and what people can do when they start a practice. So
right.
I definitely have a lot of lessons there. Definitely a lot.
A lot of attorneys touch on this, so I'm curious what your take is. And what I mean by that is one of the things that almost every attorney who has done what you have done and gone down at least a road of having their own firm for 5 or more years, right, is what I'm talking about here. They most of them say one of the biggest lessons they learned, and I'm just curious if your opinion on this, was when to not take a client, when you like learning that just because you needed the money in the door and bills needed to be paid, you're like, I'm not taking that lady or that guy because it's going to cost me more money no matter what I do, or more time and energy, which again is ultimately money, right? If you're having to spend all that energy. So I'm curious what your take on that is, and how quickly did it take you to learn that one?
I don't know that it took me much time at all. I think for younger attorneys and even some of the attorneys that work for me, they have some difficulty determining, is this client a fit for our firm? So we are very much, and we talk about our ideal clients and what they kind of look like, demographic wise, communication wise, are they a fit? And so I've over the years have sort of drilled into them.
Developed a kind of a checklist in your head, if nothing else, like when you're on the phone, okay, cool. We can talk then.
Is this client a fit, right? Do they fit with our values? Do they fit with what we are known for? We have turned away multi-million-dollar cases simply because we didn't feel that we could represent that person the way they wanted.
Communication is huge. If you don't think you can communicate, or if you feel like the communication is going to always be poor on one side, no matter how well you deliver yourself.
Right. And
That's
you
key.
do develop, right, the red flags. So people
Yep.
who call and use certain buzzwords or say certain things, or, have been through 9 other attorneys that
Right. You're like,
very
wait a minute.
reputable. You're
Why
like,
am I number 9 on this?
yeah, we don't want to be number 10, probably not, we'll pass you along. And sometimes financially it just isn't a fit for us either. We don't want to put a client in a situation where, we're charging them a retainer and then
Oh, right.
they can't afford it.
No, I get that. I love that. Thank you. That's actually, I think you're the first person that's actually brought it up on the other side. And what I mean by that is talk about the fact that you knew they simply couldn't afford your services. And although you would love to help them, you send them probably somewhere. I'm assuming you probably have some referral networks of places and other places they can go and get help.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you brought that side up too.
We are, we try to be realistic with people, and we help where we can. I mean, our firm does offer some flexibility and
Payment plans, maybe something like that. If it, and I imagine that's on, from the sounds of it, I imagine those things are really individually done on a case by case after you've gotten to know that person. And you're like, yes, I want to help you. And I trust that you are going to complete your end of it, and we can come up with an agreement that works for both of us.
Absolutely. But we can also, I think, over the years have learned to look at a case and say, this person needs to hire experts, or
right.
The allegations are so extreme that it's just going to take so much time that financially, it's just not a fit for our firm. We know what it's going to take on our end to give them the best representation. Right.
Right.
And it's just, they're financially, we don't want to put them in a hole with us either. So,
again, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I love that you're looking at you're truly trying to look at all the angles for the fit and make sure that it's, as long as everything lines up and like you say, no red flags pop up, then you feel good about it.
Right. Yeah.
Who would you say is a mentor, and what would be the best piece of advice that you've gotten?
Oh, okay. So on that, yes. So when I first started practicing, I worked with a gentleman by the name of Neil Gallitz. He has since passed away.
Sorry.
So in Nevada, the bar license numbers are in order of year that you passed out the bar, or that you passed the bar. So mine is like 8,000 and something. His was 3. He was, I think, the third attorney in the state of Nevada to get a number associated with his bar.
Wow.
So Neil had been around, and he had worked on some of the greatest legal cases.
Oh, yeah, heck yeah.
In Nevada, PepCon and the MGM fire, some of the big litigation. And I think the best piece of advice he ever gave me was, you can never count someone else's money. And that is something, not just as an attorney that I take, but I also tell my clients, when we're looking at alimony or looking at selling a house, you can't count somebody else's money. It's not your money until you have it in your hands.
Right.
So when I have a client looking at a child support case or an alimony case, we try to work through that mentality of, well, what happens if this person doesn't pay?
Does not pay, right. You've always got to be prepared for the contingency that not every dude or chick is going to pay what they're supposed to pay when it comes down to it, even if law has said so.
And so, I mean, we view that from the practice lens, right? From the practice management lens of, look, if the client doesn't pay you, how are we going to deal with this? But also from the practitioner lens for the client of, look, if you're trying to divide an estate and the money isn't yours, how are you going to get it? What are you going to do? What are you going to be able to make your electric bill that month if your spouse doesn't pay the alimony or you don't get that child support check? So probably the best piece of advice I ever got from a lawyer was that. So yeah, Neil for sure was one. Another attorney that has since retired, Phil Arbach, and he really taught me on the brief writing and representation angle. And sometimes in my mind, I always think, how would Phil handle this case?
Right.
Just, be straight, be direct to the point, especially with judges. They've got thousands of cases to read, and they don't want to.
Oh yeah, less is so much more with a judge.
Yeah, they don't want to go through the garbage. Tell them what they need to know, and think to yourself, if you're the judge, what would you want to know about this? Don't give them a 10-page backstory when you could give them a 2-sentence backstory. So Phil really directed me in that way, to kind of narrow down my writing and get to the point with the judges and present that case to the judge.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Yep, just facts.
So in a typical day, and I'm looking for maybe one of the most important ones, but what would you say is like a daily ritual that is something you must do in a typical day that you feel like is part of your pattern of success?
I have so many rituals.
All right, limited to 3, Molly.
Limited to 3. Okay. Daily ritual for sure. I check my Google Analytics every single day, which I know they tell you in marketing you should not do, but I still do it. Every single day, I check Google Analytics and I look for patterns across our analytics to see, spikes or drops or
right.
Is our website still on? Has Google shut us down? So that I check every single day. I walk every single day, 20 minutes every single day. Before
I was about to ask, you said morning?
Yes, in the morning.
Okay, so that's the start of the day. Gotcha.
Start the day with a 20-minute walk, rain or shine, no matter what the weather is. I get outside and get that 20 minutes of air and just kind of think my way through the day before I look at a device, before I turn on the computer, before I do anything else.
So it's part meditation as well as part exercise.
It is. And then the other thing I do is I will meet with at least one team member in my office every single day to talk about the day, talk about their mental state, where they are, kind of what they're feeling as far as practice goes, for probably a good 10 to 15 minutes every day, just kind of have that one-on-one time to work our way through, any issues they're seeing personnel-wise, from a client perspective, from a workload perspective, just kind of touch base with them. So
yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Those would probably be my top 3 things I try to do every single day for sure.
I like the last one, particularly just because it definitely presents that open door policy that you can talk to me about everything, because I'm literally asking you to sit down twice a month and spill it. Let's hear it.
Yep. Yeah.
Very cool. Here's one for you. So what's something that most people do not know about you that you might call a quirk, a strange habit, or even just a hobby or something like that most people don't know?
Let's see. I started weightlifting lately. I think a lot of people don't know that because I'll pan on camera so you can see. Maybe you can see. I don't know. So that is my wall.
Are those all weightlifting medals?
Those are not. So I did. Before I started doing the weightlifting, I was doing Ironman triathlons, believe it or not. And wow. I was a huge triathlete and did a lot of that. And I have subsequently stopped doing that with age and time that comes.
Everything changes. Nothing ever stays the same.
So I think a lot of people still think I'm doing races all the time. I am not. I have stopped racing, and
Well, you still look extremely healthy. Oh. I don't see any fat on you, so it's that. Maybe that's why people are like, well, you look like you're still, probably, and of course you still walk every morning. So, I mean, it's not like you're, getting unhealthy.
Yeah. So that's something new. I think many people don't know.
Cool.
About me.
Well, here's a more extreme then. What is the craziest thing you've ever done? Business, work, whatever, that you're okay with sharing to the world? And by the way, can you just turn your camera a little bit back, because you're now almost cut off.
That way?
There we go. Yep.
Craziest thing. I think Ironman's probably the craziest thing. A lot of people.
How many times did you compete, if you don't mind me asking?
I have attempted a full distance Ironman 3. I have completed 1. I had a medical event in the last one I did and decided that full distance Ironman was not for me. I have done, I can't even count how many half Ironman. I just did one in July, and that was sort of the end for me. Shorter distance races, as many are on my wall and probably more that you can't see.
Right.
So yeah, lots and lots.
Oh, the Ironman is crazy enough. Trust me.
It is.
I get like that's my father back in the 80s. And I say that because it was still an early concept, but he ran 2 marathons back to back and trained, like trained for a couple of years before he started doing that. And of course, he's one of the early ones. So, he has bad knees because they did not have all the protection for running and all the shock absorbance that they have now for running on concrete and around the city. So,
yeah, I think that's probably for me about as crazy. I think crazy things. I have a lot of pets. I think sometimes my husband thinks that's crazy. So.
Nah, that's not crazy. So, how about this one? Where are you from, and what was it like growing up there?
So I was born in Virginia. I lived there until I was, I think, 2. My parents died.
Oh, okay. So it was
here. So I'm from Las Vegas and grew up here.
hometown girl.
From here. I wasn't born here, but I'm from here. My kids were born here. I've lived here. Well, I don't even want to say.
You're like Leslie Knope, though. You might not. You're definitely a Las Vegas hometown girl. You just didn't pop there. That's all.
Correct. It's been a huge change. Vegas is not the same place I grew up, for sure. The population, I think, has doubled.
Blown up.
Since I grew up here.
Well, it went from being just a tourist place that people actually wanted to live and come out and be a part of Vegas, because I've seen that change. Springs is where I am here, Colorado Springs, and it's a town that has blown up after becoming kind of a tourist destination, and then people are like, hey, I want to live there.
Yeah, Vegas has definitely changed. A different demographic here now, I think, than there was. Definitely a lot more industry than just the casinos. So.
Oh yeah, you got some software companies there. You got a lot of marketing companies, sales companies.
Yep. And now with the Raiders here and the Golden Knights here and a lot of professional teams and our Vegas won the national.
That's going to change it. Trust me. Yeah. That is going to, you're going to get a whole new, once you have one of the professional teams, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, or even soccer, or hockey, actually, there's really 5. Any of those will bring in a whole new, we're getting ready here because we're about to, we either are trying to bid for it or we won it. But I know Denver's trying to, I think they actually won the bid. So FIFA is coming, I think, to Denver. So that'll be crazy. When you were a little girl back there in Vegas, what did you actually want to become? Was it always an attorney, or was there something else you wanted to be when you were growing up?
Always an attorney.
Always an attorney.
Yeah. Kill a Mockingbird.
And I was about to ask you, is that where your inspiration and biggest influence was To Kill a Mockingbird?
I think To Kill a Mockingbird and Mississippi Burning were the 2 that I was like, that's where I'm going.
You were hooked.
That's what I'm going to do. Yep.
That's funny. I just watched To Kill a Mockingbird again the other day. I love Apple movies, and they sell them for like $4.99 now. They'll put them on sale. Yeah, I will definitely pick up something like that. I got that one and 12 Angry Men.
Yeah,
$10 for the 2. I was like, come on, how can you? They're just. Yeah. I'm assuming you probably have a love for 12 Angry Men too. So.
Probably, yeah. I think the 2 for me were really, To Kill a Mockingbird first, probably, and then the movie Mississippi Burning. I think.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I was only saying I'm sure you love 12 Angry Men only for what it is in the sense of the jury aspect. I will throw this out there. If you ever get a chance, good criminal defense movie that you would, I doubt that you'll not enjoy it. I'm just telling you. But it's called From the Hip, and it came out in the 80s, and it stars several people, but the main star is Judd Nelson from Breakfast Club, right? Up there with the glove on. And he plays a young fledgling attorney that gets his first, it's literally covers his first 2 cases. And I always tell people it's really great because the first half of the movie is literally almost just a balls out comedy, right? Just very, very funny. And then the second part is just straight drama and intense suspense. You're like, it's really, you don't see a lot of movies do that and pull it off well. And you don't feel the switch until you're done. And you're like, wow, that really took a turn. So. Yeah, it's really good. From the Hip.
I got to try it.
Yeah, I promise you'll like it. I promise. So, what is your, and I know the answer is me, so I'm just teasing. What's your favorite podcast?
I like I like the CNBC podcasts. I listen to those quite frequently. I don't want to say it might be your competitor. Mike Mogul does a podcast.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, he's a good one.
Love his stuff. So yeah, those are probably my tops.
Cool. I like hearing the fact that you actually have one that's related to what I do for a living, because that means lawyers are actually listening to our type of podcast. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I love Mike's stuff. It's great.
What's your favorite conference?
I am going to the Game Changer Summit. So
Would you say that is your favorite?
I haven't been yet, so I'm really.
Oh, this is your first attendance. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. I haven't been. It's been a long time since I've traveled to any conferences.
Well, we've been dealing with this, thing we call the pandemic. So.
My people just went locally to the DIDS conference, which is the Indigent Defense. So they just did that one. We've got another conference coming up in October for specialty courts, drug courts that we're going to do. So. Which
is criminal too. You said drug court, right?
Yeah, drug court.
But just out of curiosity, do you guys handle because a lot of criminal defense places will shy away, and I'm just curious, do you handle the sex crimes?
We do. Yes. Our office does do sex.
That's a crazy one. I'll tell you that. I've seen that. Again, obviously from an industry standpoint, one of the first things I saw for that is I was talking to an attorney and trying to help him get more cases. And one of the biggest things that an attorney can do to get more cases is their reviews. And he's like, yeah, nobody ever writes a review when I save them from a sex crime. I'm
right.
Like, yeah. I get it. So nobody's like, yeah, I was accused of this, and it's not going to happen. So
yeah, we do because of our work in the dependency area. We do sometimes the allegation is sex abuse,
right?
And you deal with that.
No, absolutely, it makes. I mean, obviously, you can understand why I asked it, because it makes sense that you would end up having to, especially Vegas. It's let's face it, Vegas is known for being one of the sexier cities in our country, considering the laws that they already have and the differences that are already there that I won't even mention. So last question for you. What is your favorite tool and or software? Because lots of times it ends up being a piece of software, but what's the one thing that you just could not do without to perform your day?
Well, Zoom. So it's part of it. Right? We're on Zoom a lot, and our court system uses a program called Blue Jeans, which is similar to Zoom. I would say for me in my practice, there's so many. Probably we use My Case software as a case management tool. That sort of runs our practice. We'd sort of be lost without that.
Is that kind of like your CRM within the?
They don't, sadly, they don't have a CRM feature that I'm aware of with it. I keep telling the law firm case management companies, like, you guys
just add it.
CRM feature in this, but they do not have that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think CRM, we use Keep is one right now. Keep used to be, I think, Infusionsoft, and then they changed their name.
I think you are correct there.
Yeah.
They, a lot of these software, I mean, I'm not trying to sound rude, but things just move faster, so they get bought and sold. And I like it when they don't rebrand, because then I just put a little different buy at the bottom. It's buy this now or buy this now. And so I know that you're not necessarily the same company, but you're still the same product essentially. So
right.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, Molly, it's been an absolute pleasure on my end. Thank you so much for joining us today. There from the beautiful city of Las Vegas. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and maybe in a year or two, you can come back and give us an update on things.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.